Hello everybody, and welcome to the next episode of Kerbal Space Program. So last episode we ended on a bit of a disaster, which was just a result of me being very greedy. I tried to hold on to the service module upon re-entry just to save on some money, and it actually ended up weighing down the craft and destroying most of the attached science modules. But we did manage to salvage about 1,000 science, and I think we have about 1,500 now in total, which we can now spend on the next mission. So let's just get right into that. And I figure for this next mission we'll do something bold. We'll go to a place farther than we've gone before. So let's go ahead and check out the contract thingy-mabob here. And we are going to go to explore Jool, the big green gas giant planet, which has slightly less objectives than normal. We only have to achieve an orbit around Jool and transmit or recover science from space around Jool. We don't actually have to land on it or anything like that because, well, you can't really land on Jool. It's a gas giant and the atmosphere is very, very, very thick, and after a certain point you just kind of hit a kill zone and anything that touches it just gets destroyed. So that should be fairly easy. I'll grab that one. And then we have these other ones. Bop and Pol are actually two of the moons that are around Jool. I believe they're the outermost moons, which means they'll be a little farther to get to, but I believe they're very light, very small planets, or moons rather, so it shouldn't be too hard to land on them. And so these are just the standard objectives here. Orbit, science, land, science. This one gets us 420,000, and that one gets us, again, 420,000. So we'll just grab both of those things. And let's head back out. Let's go down to the science lab here. And let's spend some of the science that we got. I'm definitely going to want to grab these things here, the rechargeable banks and the radio isotope thermoelectric generator. Basically, it's just a power generator because once you get really far away from the sun, like around where Jool is, the sun stops being so effective with your photovoltaics. So, and plus, a lot of the times you'll be eclipsed because Jool is so huge. So a lot of the times we might just accidentally run out of power. So I'm going to grab that one. And I'm also going to grab this one here, the very heavy rocketry, because I'm going to want to use some of these parts to get out to Jool, because Jool's very far away, and it's better if we just use these gigantic ones over here. So we'll grab that. Let's see. Now we do have 400 left. I don't want any of this stuff. I don't need any of this stuff, and I definitely don't need any of this stuff. But since I promised, like in episode 1, that I would try to get the whole tree filled, I'm just going to go back and start filling in some of the gaps, some of these lesser science things that were required. Because at some point I want to do something with a space plane. Maybe for like the last mission I have kind of an idea that I want to do with it. So we'll just start grabbing those, and it looks like that's about all I can get for now. So I think that's the nitty gritty. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 things left to unlock, and I'm hoping that we can do it with this Jool mission. Speaking of Jool, let's just check it out. We'll head out to the Space Center here. Let's zoom all the way out. So Jool is past Duna, past Dres, and it's right over there. So let's just take a look at the Jool system. And there it is. It's got its own network of moons. It's almost like an entire solar system in its own right. That's it itself. It's just a big green monster. And they did a really good job of making it kind of look like Jupiter. And it does have its own set of auroras, of course, as any planet with a magnetic field will. So let's take a look. The most furthest moon out is Pol here. So Pol is just kind of like a little pollen ball. Looks like it's quite rocky, lots of mountains, so we want to try to land maybe in one of these yellow areas. Let's take a look. The gravity is 0.038, so it's very, very light. It won't take a whole lot of thrust to get down there, so we'll keep that in mind. No atmosphere, of course, just a little ball of pollen, it looks like. Very far away from it. Let's take a look at the next one in Bop. Now, Bop is on a strange elliptical orbit, and not only that, but it's also inclined off the ecliptic, so it's going to be a little tougher to get to Bop, just because we have to adjust our inclination once we're out there. But Bop is just another little, just a little hunk of rock. Gravity's 0.06, so technically it's a little heavier than Pol, but still fairly light in the grand scheme of things. And I think there's a bit of lore surrounding Bop. It's believed to be the home of the Kraken, a mischievous creature said to play with ships of hapless explorers by spinning them out of control until torn asunder, then casting them into the oblivion. In early episodes, or versions of Kerbal Space Program, the ships would just randomly, for no apparent reason, explode or fling apart, and so they created this mythical creature called the Kraken, and the Space Kraken was the result of that. But in these newer versions of KSP, they've since fixed those issues and basically have abolished the Kraken, and they say that the Kraken is somewhere on Bop, and I believe it's actually in this little crater right here. So if we manage to get out there successfully, we'll try to land somewhere in there. Maybe we can find the dead corpse of the Kraken. Let's see, moving in further, we have some moons that are more circular and not so inclined, so these are a little easier to get to. Tylo is the next one in. Tylo has gravity 0.8. That's fairly heavy, and I believe it is, I think, the heaviest moon in the game, to be honest with you. So if you're planning on going to Tylo, you're going to need a ship with a little more thrust. Like, if you want to get there, I've seen people land there with mainsail engines. Yeah, so maybe someday we'll get to Tylo. I'm sure we will at some point. One more in, we have Vol, which is like a little blue ice world, I guess. Got a lot of these little flat lands here, the little blue areas, and gravity here is 0.235, so again, pretty light, much lighter than Tylo. And then moving in once more, we have my favorite moon of the Jool system, Lathe, or Lathe, and ooh, that looks really nice, actually. So Lathe is actually a water world with an atmosphere. The atmosphere is 50,000 meters up, and it's mainly water. There's some little islands, some archipelagos, or archipelago, however you pronounce that. And it looks like on this part that's dark, the clouds kind of glow this iridescent blue or indigo kind of color, which is interesting. Maybe the clouds are radioactive here on Lathe. I'm not really too sure. And there's the auroras down there too. So if we get to Lathe, that would be kind of interesting to get to at some point. But this mission is going to focus on mainly Jool and these two outer moons, Bop and Pol. So we will have to plan accordingly for that. So let's go ahead and take a look. We'll go, once this loads up, we'll go into the vehicle assembly building and see what we can come up with here. Alright, so this is the monstrosity that I've come up with, and I feel like I say that every single time I come in here, because I do tend to make these giant abominations. So let's just start right from the top here. We have our standard 3-man capsule, complete with the 4 little baby science things and our Kerbal Engineer Redux, of course. Now I've slapped a docking port shielded up here, just in case, you never know, I might have to send a refueler out there or something that might need to have docking capabilities. I always like to throw that on there in case of an emergency. Now, of course, I've come down here, big giant battery bank, little extra fuel tank, mostly just for ballast. I kind of want to balance it out because the service module is a little heavy down here, so I put some extra fuel up here just to balance the center of mass. I do have a quad science junior setup, just like our Eve Explorer, and I've only put 4 goos on each outer end of it because I feel like I had too much goo last time. I figure I'll get that solar data that I lost from the last mission on one of these science cans, and then I'll get these two for high and low orbit around Jool, and same with the goos, high and low orbit around Jool, and in case I get any flybys, just extra goo just in case. I do have on here the big giant commutatron, the 8888, I believe it is. There it is, just for faster data sending and all that. Let's see, I might just move it over one click. It just feels better right there. Okay, moving on down, I have a separator, and this time when I re-enter, I will indeed separate the craft. I will not keep the service module attached. That's where I screwed up last time. I got some solar panels here, 1x6s, and this is where it gets interesting. Now, I've slapped on here some probes, pre-docked up, little bolted in with a little bolt action here. And now these probes, basically what's going to happen is, when I get into orbit around Jool, I'm going to then send these probes, I'm going to disconnect them, and these probes are going to find their way to the Joolian moons themselves. I'm not actually going to fly the main ship. The command module's not going to go down to the moons. The little probes are going to go down there, and they're going to get all the data that... Ooh, I seem to have blocked the communitron. Actually, it's probably alright. Yeah, it's probably okay. I might just move these up a little bit. There, that feels better. Anyways, so yeah, again, these probes are going to go down to the surface. Now, I've attached some extra fuel on the sides that I can always jettison away. Just because since these moons are farther out and some of them are inclined all wacky, I want some extra fuel just to get us out to them so I can get rid of them when I don't need them anymore. And then I'll have just the lander with its full tank of gas in here that I can land on the moons. Now, they're very tiny moons, so we can get away with using these very tiny Rockomax 4875s that only have 20 thrust, I believe. Let's just take a look. Yeah, max thrust 30. Okay, so that's pretty good. So, you know, just to run down, I have battery banks in here with 1,000 charge each. Simple SAS module and a probe, just so I can control them, and 2 solar panels on the side, with some extra backup solar panels in case I screw up royally or something. I forget to deploy the panels, which I've done before. So that's the probes. They're going to go down. One's going to go to Pol, one's going to go to Bop, and they're going to get our 2 contracts from those 2 moons completed. We'll get the science and we'll send it on back with these communitron dishes here. The other 2 sides just have the radio isotope, whatever the hell it's called, power recharger, just in case, again, I royally screw up. Somehow I lose my solar panels, who knows. Now, just like our Duna mission, I've decided to go with quad atomic thrusters, just because they're pushing a little extra weight, and I wanted the extra fuel in here. And down at the bottom, I have also an extra fuel tank down here. It's because we're going further, we're going to Jool, it takes a little longer to get there. We definitely don't want to get stranded out there. And I've connected pipes going from the inner tanks out to these outer ones. So we'll use this inner lot first, then we'll have a whole outer set to deal with on the way back home. So that is our payload. That whole ship is going to be our Jool Explorer. Now, coming down here, we've got our launch section. I'm using the very large rocketry here. Big tank over here, smaller tank, and then the quad engine thruster here, the big giant 3200 thrust engine here. I love that thing. On the outsides, I have a quad asparagus staged fuel tanks with the smaller one, the single engine here that gives us still a nice 2500 thrust. And I've attached on the outside the big giant solid rocket boosters that give us 650 each. So this thing is pretty powerful. Up to stage 7, I believe, is when this all releases. We are going to have plenty of fuel to get us up, and hopefully enough fuel to get us about halfway out to Jool. I'm kind of hoping that we can get most of that done before having to use any of this fuel up here. That's the plan, at least. I'm not sure if that'll actually work out that way. Action groups, I have set just solar panels to be 1 and 2. And let's select our crew here. So, of course, the main heroes are pretty much retired at this point. They went to Duna. They're pretty much done. And we don't want to use the same old guys, so let's pick a whole new set of Kerbals, which I think, let's go to the astronaut complex, and we can select them from there. Alright, let's hire some new Kerbals. So, let's take a look. What do we got? Dunlong Jeffrey is not courageous whatsoever. He's just pretty stupid. We'll get him in there just for fun. Dudney, because he's a dude, I guess we'll grab him. What else do we got? Hensel and Gerten. Gerten's a good combination of both. We'll grab that. And I think that's good for now. We got our 3. Haven't lost any of them yet. Fingers crossed. Got a bunch of them available. Good. Let's go back to the vehicle assembly building here. And let's see, crew. So let's pick someone with, fairly low stupidity to be the commander. I think Dudney should be the commander. He's pretty courageous, not very stupid, so he'll be our capsule commander. Let's pick someone fairly dumb. How about Jeffrey Kerman? Not courageous whatsoever, just fairly stupid. We'll get him in there. And Gerten. is a good combination of both. So there'll be a pretty balanced crew, hopefully. Yeah, we can hope, right? Alright, let's go ahead and launch this thing. So one thing we will have to do once we get out here is just make sure that our phase angle is lined up for Jool. I always try to do that before we launch, just because it kind of saves an extra step. Okay, so we got nighttime here, but that's not going to matter a whole lot because we are just going to hit the rendezvous, celestial body, Jool. We're at 102, and I think that's fairly good because the correct phase angle for Jool is 96.58, so we are basically there. The way you want to kind of look at it is Jool should be at the 12 o'clock and Kerbin should be at the 3 o'clock, something like that. We don't have much to warp down, so let's say we want 96.58, so we barely have to do any warping at all. Alright, so 96.9, we want 96.58. Oh, 96.52. Alright, we went just a hundredth of a degree a little too far, but 96.52, that's close enough. I always seem to miss that, but I'm getting better at it. I've only missed it by, like I said, a couple hundredths of a decimal, of a degree rather. So here we are, we're all staged up, everything's all set. We'll hit the SAS button, and let's get this thing going. Here we go. Oh boy, she's heavy. Wow, that's a lot of thrust though. Wow, look at all those engines. Ain't she a beauty? Taking off from Kerbin as the sun sets, it looks like. Little sunset launch. That's okay. Alright. Our three new heroes, Jeffney, Dudney, and Garten. I love these names, they're so interesting. So we're just kind of watching. I'm trying to keep this around 1G of acceleration. And it looks like our two of our main engines are going to burn out before the solid fuel, but that's okay. That usually tends to happen when we do it like this. So we'll be carrying a little bit of dead weight. So now they are out. We're just going to wait another 10 seconds or so until these boosters go away. There's Minmus on the horizon there. Remember we went there once, many Kerbal moons ago we were there. Alright, coming up on this, here we go, let them go, and we'll let these go. There we are. And we are actually already at 10,000, so let's go ahead and start pushing this craft over. Try to get it right about to the 45 line eventually. I'll just pump this thing up a little bit. Wow, look at her go. According to our nav ball, we're pointing directly away from Jool. Jool's somewhere down there. But that's okay. We don't really have to worry about that until we get into orbit. Let's just push this thing over a little bit because we are getting some nice height. We're already at apoapsis 25. She's a lovely looking machine. Very, very nice. Looks like we're off the 90-degree line a little bit, so I'll just push it down just a little bit, just to get it nice and lined up right along the 90-degree mark. There we are. Sometimes that happens. Coming up on separation here. Let these things go. Man, that's cool. And I might just boost this thing up to full throttle, just because she's heavy. She's a heavy thing. How we doing here? Alright, getting some good sideways speed. Very good launch so far, right down the middle. Just gotta keep moving it over. Apoapsis 65. Now I'd love to keep as much fuel as I can in this thing, just to push us all the way out there to Jool. Or most of the way to Jool. That would be quite nice. And we're getting there now. Got some nice speed going here. Very nice launch so far. Almost there. There we have it. And we are practically in orbit. We will barely have to burn anything. Just a mere 400 will get us set up there. Alright, let's go ahead and turn the ship. We'll point it at the blue maneuver node, and she's cumbersome. She's quite heavy with this extra fuel stuck onto her. But she's a beauty. She's a big beauty. So we'll get it nice and lined up there. There we go. And while we're in space, let's press the 1 key. We'll get our solar panels deployed as we sail over Kerbin. Very pretty. Very, very nice. Alright, let's warp. It's going to take 18 seconds, so I'll burn at about 9 seconds. Getting down there now. Here we go. Light this baby up. We'll just push us the rest of the way. And it looks like we will actually save a decent amount of fuel. About 1,300 meters per second. So that's pretty nice. That'll push us, I think, about 2/3 the way to Jool, probably. There we go. Very nice. Very nice launch so far. Quite happy with it. Alright, so I think what we can do is end the episode right there. We kind of talked a lot about the moons of Jool a little bit, but that's alright. So in the next episode, look forward to us basically making this encounter out to Jool. We're pretty much lined up. All we have to do is plan it and get there. So look forward to that in the next episode. Thanks for watching, guys.